Through their irresponsible and utterly reckless actions, Washington and Tel Aviv bevas embeña I'll permit myself this, perhaps not a strictly international legal phrase, but one that clearly defines the situation. They commit lawlessness, grossly violating the norms and principles of international and humanitarian law, plunging the region ever deeper into chaos. The international community is absolutely obliged. It simply cannot, it must not, it is truly bound to provide this with an objective and, what is no less critically important, an uncompromising assessment. Russia most decisively condemned another dangerous venture of the US-Israeli tandem against the Islamic Republic, the treacherous murder of the head of the Iranian state, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei Shah, and several high-ranking military political leaders of that country. Our principled position is outlined in relevant statements by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, speeches at UN Security Council meetings, and the IAEA Board of Governors special session. It is consistently conveyed in regular contacts with foreign partners at all levels, including the highest. We advocate for an immediate cessation of all hostilities and a return to the political and diplomatic process with the aim of resolving all existing problems based on the Charter of the United Nations and the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Nuclear weapons, while ensuring the security interest of all states in the region. There is absolutely no doubt that the supposed, as has been repeatedly demonstrated, it has been asserted for many years, that the fabricated Iranian threat was merely a pretext for the implementation of a long-standing, deeply conceived plan for the violent overthrow of the constitutional, I emphasize, system of government in a sovereign state deemed undesirable by Washington and Tel Aviv. Again, I stress within the United Nations framework. We note that Iran's legitimate authorities maintain control of the situation in the country, preventing chaos, a power vacuum, and a humanitarian crisis. Nevertheless, the military campaign unleashed against Iran entails the gravest consequences for the civilian population and infrastructure, as well as for the regional and global economy. Air communication has been interrupted, logistical supply chains have been severely disrupted, the delivery of energy resources has been destabilized, and their prices have literally soared upwards. Iran's nuclear facilities are once again coming under attack, which not only harms the global non-proliferation regime, but also poses very serious radiological risks. These are the real ones, not just theoretical risks on paper, but actual dangers on the ground. The renewed negotiation process has become nothing more than a cover-up operation. Is there truly any innovation in this? No, there isn't. For so many years, we have been observing how these negotiation processes have been consistently used for precisely this purpose, either as a convenient cover for plans aimed at the overthrow and subsequent change of existing regimes, or as a strategic cover for plans involving the militarization of various specific countries, or indeed to effectively conceal plans for the deliberate escalation of ongoing conflicts. In Washington, they make no secret of it, and now they even speak about it quite openly, that they are pursuing, and this is a direct quote, regime change in Iran. The trigger for these dramatic events was the failed scenario of a color revolution, which opponents of the Islamic Republic unsuccessfully attempted to impose on Iranian society in January of this year. We are deeply concerned by the latest statements from the United States administration about their stated aim to prolong military actions as it has been articulated until what they call American interests are guaranteed. Our colleagues at the embassy in Tehran, as well as the consulates general located in Isfahan and Rasht, are bravely continuing to fulfill their official duties, despite, to put it mildly, the extremely difficult conditions determined by the current wartime situation. Of particular danger are the missile and bomb strikes, which are being carried out in very close proximity to our diplomatic missions. As you know, on March 2nd, rockets exploded within half a kilometer of the embassy and trade mission. We demand an end to such egregious incidents and security guarantees for our foreign missions, as well as other civilian facilities where our specialists are employed. Washington and Tel Aviv have been officially notified of their locations.
As missiles hit oil facilities and tankers in the Gulf, Moscow is stepping into the crisis. The Kremlin says President Vladimir Putin will convey Arab leaders' concerns directly to Tehran over strikes on energy infrastructure. The move follows a flurry of calls between Putin and Gulf state leaders. Oil prices have now risen for a third straight day as attacks target regional energy assets. Russia says it will try to ease tensions, even as fighting widens. But notably, there are no plans for a Putin-Trump conversation. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, President Putin will convey deep concern from Arab leaders about Iranian strikes on oil infrastructure. Peskov said Putin would use Moscow's ongoing dialogue with the Iranian leadership to press for at least a slight easing of tensions. Russia maintains a strategic partnership with Iran, giving it a rare communication channel at a volatile moment. The Kremlin described the outreach as part of efforts to contain escalation spreading across the Gulf. Putin held multiple calls with 4 Arab Gulf leaders over the past 24 hours. Among them was Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, president of the United Arab Emirates. The UAE described recent Iranian strikes as blatant attacks targeting Emirati territory and other Arab states. Both leaders reviewed what they called serious military and security developments unfolding across the region. The joint message? Halt escalation before the conflict widens further. The outreach underscores growing alarm among Gulf states as energy infrastructure comes under fire. Oil prices have climbed for a third consecutive day. The spike follows Iranian retaliatory strikes against energy facilities in Gulf countries and against tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. The strait remains one of the world's most critical oil choke points. Any disruption there reverberates instantly across global markets. With infrastructure targeted and shipping threatened, energy security has moved to the center of the crisis. The economic ripple effect now matches the military escalation. Despite the widening confrontation, Putin has not spoken with U.S. President Donald Trump since the U.S. and Israel launched strikes against Iran. Peskov confirmed there are no plans for such a conversation at this time. That absence is notable. As Washington and Tel Aviv press forward militarily, Moscow is engaging Gulf capitals, not the White House. Diplomatic lines remain active, but selectively, and in a rapidly escalating conflict, who speaks to whom can matter as much as what is said. Russia says it will make every effort to contribute to easing tensions. Gulf leaders are voicing alarm over attacks on their infrastructure. Oil markets are reacting, and military exchanges continue. The diplomatic track is now racing against events on the ground. Whether Moscow's outreach slows the momentum or merely tracks it remains to be seen.
As missile strikes and drone attacks ripple across the Gulf, diplomacy moved swiftly behind the scenes. The President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, received a phone call from Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders discussed what the UAE described as blatant Iranian attacks targeting Emirati territory and several Arab states. They also reviewed the serious military and security developments unfolding across the region. Both leaders called for an immediate halt to escalation. The message: contain the conflict before it widens further. According to official statements from Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and President Putin spoke on Monday as tensions intensified across the Middle East. The discussion focused on Iranian attacks targeting the UAE and other Arab countries, as well as the broader security and military implications for regional and international stability. The call reflects growing diplomatic engagement as Gulf states face direct security threats. During the conversation, both leaders stressed the need for an immediate halt to military escalation. They emphasized avoiding any widening of the conflict and underscored the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in resolving disputes. The appeal comes at a time when missile exchanges and retaliatory operations have expanded across multiple fronts in the region. The UAE has described the recent Iranian strikes as blatant attacks on its territory and on several Arab nations. The developments have raised concerns over regional stability, energy security, and the safety of key infrastructure hubs. Russia, which maintains strategic ties across the Middle East, has positioned itself as a diplomatic actor calling for restraint. The Putin MBZ call signals coordination between Moscow and Abu Dhabi during a volatile moment. While the UAE has strengthened ties with Western partners, it has also maintained open communication channels with Russia. The emphasis from both sides was clear: prevent further escalation, prioritize diplomacy, and stabilize the region before the conflict deepens.
Russian President Vladimir Putin condemned the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as a cynical murder, as one of Moscow's closest allies continues to fight a deadly war that has spread across the Middle East. In a note to Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, Putin said, "Please accept my deep condolences in connection with the murder of the supreme leader committed in cynical violation of all norms of human morality and international law." Khamenei's death marks a staggering blow to Russian influence in a matter of months. He is the third Moscow-backed leader to fall in just 15 months following the collapse of Russian-aligned governments in Syria and Venezuela. Russia says the US and Israeli attacks have thrust the entire Middle East into the abyss, but some Iranian sources have said Tehran received little real help from Moscow in its biggest crisis since the 1979 revolution. The relationship between Putin and Khamenei was long and deliberate. Putin's first foreign visit outside the former Soviet Union since the start of the Ukraine war in 2022 was to Tehran, where he met Khamenei personally. Both wary of US intelligence intercepts, the two leaders sometimes communicated through written messages or trusted envoys rather than direct calls. Russia and Iran also signed a 20-year strategic partnership deal earlier last year. But crucially, the published agreement contains no mutual defense clause, meaning Moscow faces no formal obligation to respond militarily, though Russia does support a peaceful nuclear program if Iran wants to build one. There is, however, one dimension where Russia stands to gain. If the conflict triggers a sustained disruption to Gulf oil supplies, global crude prices will rise, directly boosting Russian oil revenues as Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy has issued a chilling declaration. No vessels are permitted to cross the Strait of Hormuz. The order, reportedly broadcast over maritime VHF radio and cited by Reuters, amounts to a de facto shutdown of one of the most vital arteries in the global economy, a move that could send shockwaves through energy markets within hours. The warning comes as tensions explode across the Middle East following direct military exchanges between Iran, Israel, and the United States, and now the confrontation appears to be shifting to the sea. The Strait of Hormuz is no ordinary waterway. This narrow corridor links the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean, wedged between Iran's southern coast and Oman's Musandam Peninsula. At just about 50 kilometers wide, shallow, constrained, and militarily exposed, it's one of the most vulnerable strategic choke points on Earth. And it carries staggering weight. More than 20% of the world's oil and petroleum consumption, roughly 20 million barrels every single day, flows through this passage. Nearly 1/5 of global liquefied natural gas trade also transits these waters, much of it originating from Qatar. If the strait is truly closed, even temporarily, the consequences could be immediate and severe. energy prices surging, shipping disrupted, global markets rattled. What began as missile exchanges may now be threatening the lifeline of the global economy. Over 80% of the oil and gas transiting Hormuz is bound for Asian markets. China alone purchases more than 90% of Iran's oil exports, according to industry analysis. While Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have limited pipeline capacity to bypass the strait, experts warn alternative routes can handle only a fraction of normal volumes. The U.S. Energy Information Administration has repeatedly described Hormuz as one of the world's most important oil choke points. Strategically placed islands, including Hormuz, Kesh, and Larak, give Iran geographic leverage over the shipping lanes. Disputed islands, such as Greater Tunb, Lesser Tunb, and Abu Musa, further enhance Tehran's vantage point. The Revolutionary Guard, which controls naval operations in the Gulf, has long criticized the presence of foreign forces, including the U.S. Fifth Fleet based in Bahrain and major U.S. installations in Qatar. The strait has repeatedly been a flashpoint. During the Iran-Iraq tanker war of the 1980s, hundreds of vessels were damaged or destroyed. In 1988, a U.S. frigate struck an Iranian mine in the strait. That same year, an Iran Air passenger jet was shot down by a U.S. warship, killing 290 people. More recently, ship seizures and confrontations have intensified since Washington withdrew from the nuclear deal in 2018. In 2024, Iran seized a Portuguese-flagged container ship, and earlier this year, Iranian gunboats approached a U.S.-flagged tanker in the same waters. If the Strait of Hormuz is effectively sealed off, the shockwaves would race far beyond the Gulf. Oil and gas prices could spike within hours, jolting global markets and igniting fresh economic turmoil. Tankers would be stranded, supply lines choked, and energy-dependent economies forced into sudden crisis mode. From fuel pumps to factory floors, the disruption would ripple through supply chains worldwide.
A maritime chokehold with the power to squeeze the global economy in real time.